I'm the last of 8 kids, which you don't see that very much anymore. I had older brothers. When I was very young, I was already an uncle. I had older brother-in-laws. And one of the things that they were all into was American football. And so I kind of didn't have a choice. It was just going to be a part of me whether I liked it or not. And it still is. The reason I bring that up is when I was very young, I was already kind of watching it when I was 4, 5, 6. It was around this time, 6 or 7, when I started to think, yeah, I'm into this. I like what I'm seeing. I like this sport. And I didn't even know really what was going on. I knew that I liked kind of the idea. I knew that they wanted to get the ball to their end before the other and stop the other side from getting the ball to their end. I knew there were big hits. I knew there were fancy catches and all this stuff. That was enough for me to stay in it. Around the same time, I saw Star Wars the first time. I didn't have a clue what was going on really, other than I knew that the guy with the dark mask was a bad guy, and I knew that the guy and he had the red light sword, and I thought, okay, well, he's the bad guy, and the ones with the green or the blue ones are the good guys. I know what to root for. Now, going through the first 2 books of Malazan felt a little bit that way for me. I liked it, but I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. I mean, I could use a million analogies, like having a thick milkshake. If it's so thick that it doesn't come out right away, you're sitting there, your jaws are hurting, but eventually it comes. And I felt a little bit that way with the first 2 books. Even though I loved it, I know that I missed so much. So when this book is done, when I'm done doing Memories of Ice, I am going to go back through and read the first 2 books again. I've decided that. Another reason I'm doing that is because usually I read books very quickly, or relatively quickly, at least for me. I read the first 2 books quite quickly. I read Gardens of the Moon in about 4 or 5 days, and I read Dead House Gates in about 7 or 8 days. And just doing some research for this book, or I was looking back, and as I was kind of skimming through trying to find what I was looking for just for these next 2 chapters, I realized just how much I missed. I missed a large portion of, in the first book, a large portion of that first sub-book about Pale really went over my head. Especially regarding Night Chill, which, just realizing now, and from a note from Steven Erikson, that we have found the fate of the Elder Goddess already, and I didn't realize that. I went back and looked at some more things. Going to the second book, there was a large portion of that second book where I was thinking that Coltane was I was not rooting for that guy for a long time. There were just some things that I wasn't grounded. My foundation wasn't there. It was enough for me to really love it still, but I want to go back and really make sure, if I'm going to go do this for the long haul, I want to make sure my foundation is there, because I do love it. And this third book is finally where I felt like, okay, I get it, or I'm starting to get it. But even though I'm getting it, there are some pieces that are missing from the first 2 books that I think I do want to go back and make sure I do that before I go on to the 4th book. But let's just get right into doing a recap and chapter summary of these last 2 chapters of the 2nd sub-book in Memories of Ice. A couple awesome parts. Now, it starts in chapter 12 that I was so looking forward to this. I love Talk. He's sneaking up on Tool for me for my favorite character, even though I keep thinking that whenever I'm in someone else's little section, I think, oh, this person could become my favorite character. I'm compelled about some of the storylines more with some of these other ones, but I think this is the one that I'm most into. Now, 3 weeks have passed since Talk has basically bailed on Lady Envy and Tool and the Segula and said, we're going into the deep end. I don't want to be eaten. I'm going to join the Teniscari. So 3 weeks have passed, and he is feeling the struggle and the desperation caused by this hunger, which seems a little bit, it's more than just the hunger, at least the way I see it. It is almost this feral kind of thing that comes over people as a result of this hunger mixed with some kind of messed up other stuff going on. And I think that's interesting as well because Perrin, earlier on, when he's kind of discussing, he's thinking about the fact that usually the Malazans go in and they take control of the black markets and things, and that sustains them, and that has been given to the Claw. But in this situation, they don't have the Claw kind of keeping that going, so people are going to be going hungry very quickly, and he's wondering how quickly things are going to just break down into chaos. But how interesting that in the Panian Domin, or Domin, however you pronounce it, how interesting in that case, that is actually the motivator. And I like a few times it is mentioned about the crippled god and how he motivates people. Not that might be the wrong word, but he kind of uses people's pain and suffering and the things that are maybe their weaknesses. He uses those debilitations or whatever you want to say. He uses that against them. He's able to kind of capitalize on it. We could go through all sorts of different ways where, there's some biblical stuff that I'm sure people would draw on where people are most down. That's when they're kind of the weakest. We won't get into that, but it's interesting to see how even though there are so many amazing things that are just exciting and would be awesome on a big screen for this book, it is actually the slow kind of philosophical ideas that are encoded into this book, which I really do appreciate from Steven Erikson, and I assume also from Ian C. It's either Esselmoff or Esselmount. I think it's Esselmount. I'll get to his books as well. Looking really forward to it. So we have Talk, and he's not doing so well. He's keeping his mouth shut. Talk isn't talking. And he has found himself in a bit of a leadership position already. Which is, it sounds like they come and go. And even though he is in this leadership position, he's not leading anyone. He's certainly not telling anyone what to do. He has no real kind of responsibilities on his shoulders. He doesn't say anything. He's just caught the eye. But he does have a horse. So that's good. And he's hoping he can go up to reach the Malazans in the north. And there's this leader, this first child of the dead seed, which it just grosses me out every time I think of that. But I mean, in the best ways, I guess, which is it's just horrifying and makes it utterly compelling. But I feel terrible for Talk. And I want him to be one of the big heroes. If not in this book, I'm really starting to kind of emotionally become connected to him. And also, just before going way into this, another reason why I want to go to the first two books is, even though I really found it great, I was so preoccupied on juggling everything that and also just getting through it, because I have a big TBR list, that I wasn't slowing down with these characters. And I really wasn't getting all that emotionally connected until the end of Dead House Gates, where that rocked me. All right, so let's get back with Talk. He's losing himself. He's resisting the eating of flesh. He has seen things already that is stripping away at his humanity. He is getting skinny and shriveled and desperate. But I think what is happening inside him is the tragedy, as far as I can tell. And so he's with these Tenescauri, waiting for at this balcony, waiting for the Panian seer to appear and offer his benediction to the crowd. In the distance to the south, we see Magefire from Lady Envy. She's out there with her doggo and her wolf, and with the Segula and Tool, and they're tearing things up. And meanwhile, Talk has his teeth are loosening, everything. He's just a walking corpse. He's seeing the worst of the worst. And I just want to kind of let that settle in. Because that is something that I just feel so bad for the guy. And it does compel me just to slow down a little bit when reading this book. I don't want to rush through it. He is horrified by Anaster, this first child. But more than that, more than even his fears of the seer, the Panian Domin seer, it's about this mother who's kind of become a bit like this symbol of adoration among all the Tenescauri. This Anaster won't let anyone touch him except for his mom. And considering how he was born, under what circumstances, he's a little bit messed up, this guy. And obviously the mom's a little bit messed up. So makes sense that the son is going to be. And I wonder what is going to come about. He seems beyond repair, but I kind of hope that maybe, he might maybe I'm just hoping for things because of the stuff that I've read so far in the other books. Like, crazier things have happened, but yeah, there's just a lot going on, and I wonder about all the little details here. I really like how low Steven Erikson can bring his characters at times, and we have plenty of characters that are in this low place. Maybe not so much this, but the Maiba definitely has that. I know Captain Perrin is shouldering his responsibility, but he is quite low right now. We have Talk. We have others. Certainly in the other in Deadhouse Gates, we have people on the other continent that are going through a lot of wild stuff. And if you want a reminder on some of the messed up stuff about the mom, this Anastar, the child of the first seed, and his mom and their situation, go to page 370 if you want a little refresher on that. But Anastar comes out and he says that he speaks on behalf of the seer, who speaks right into Anastar's mind. And he has news for the Teniscari. And I thought this part was so kind of funny in a morbid and terrible way. But just paraphrasing, the investment in the North is about complete. It's almost complete. So everyone's going, Yahoo! We get to eat. But, he says, we're not going to get there on time. Boo! But there are some yummy bar guests up there that will be able to go and have some, we'll be able to have a feast. Hooray! And for now, the seer has a gift for all of you. The seer is upset with this other town close by. So on the way to Capistan, we're going to go to this other town and have some dinner. We're going to go eat them all up. Yay! So even Talk has this struggle to not get caught up in the excitement and the revulsion of that idea. But there is something more in store for him. Anastar singles him out and says that the seer wants him to personally join him. And as afraid as he is, I think he's basically kind of giving up. He's more horrified with what he's seeing, and he doesn't want to take place in that. I think maybe he doesn't even trust himself in what would happen if there was a nice juicy boiled leg kind of put in front of him. I think people right now are just struggling to not eat the person beside him as far as it looks. And as desperate as Talk is, he's just kind of giving up. He's just kind of giving up, it sounds like, even though he's trying to hold on. So in the South, Talk's former party is making waves for themselves. People are kind of they know that the situation is a little serious with this little group, and the seer also knows that he has to kind of pay attention. They fear Gareth, the doggo, who's making sport of everyone who flees against Lady Envy. They have Baljag, of course, stirring things up. There's whispered tales of a Talan Imas, who they now call Stone Sword. They fear the Segula, but coldest of all, in the 3 engagements they had against Lady Envy and her squad that left thousands of dead, where Tool and Segula would honor the retreat of people fleeing, Lady Envy makes no such concessions. She's going to kill every last one of them. Remember Talk saying, please don't kill everyone here. Just carve a way through, but don't kill everyone. It doesn't sound like she's really taking him up on that. She is stone cold. Now, where Talk is, it sounds like that is the seer's final line of defense. I don't know where it goes, if that is going to end up being the case. Talk is at this tower, and at the top of the tower, that's where he's going to see the seer. And so he's famished and weary. He has to stop every few steps, it sounds like. And when he gets to the top, what he finds is this withered corpse who's still animated somehow. And he toys with Talk. He gives him just enough strength to come kneel before him. Sounds like it's kind of a resistance is futile moment. Talk, though, sees through this guy. He sees some extra presences in this person. And the more that I go through these books, the more I'm compelled to see that there are sometimes more than one kind of character or what should I say, energy or whatever. There's more than one kind of person that can be taking part inside of another person. I said that in such a clunky way, but you know what I mean. And so I wonder how much of that is going on right now without us knowing. But it sounds like we need Talk to be the eye and wolf eye everybody. I think that would answer a whole bunch of questions for us. And I love that Talk. I said it in this last one. I love that Talk loses his eye, but really he gains sight. And this seer who has more than one thing kind of going on within him, he says, hey, you came from the south before. So he kind of wants to ask Talk if this is his party. I don't know if he already knows that. It sounds like he doesn't, but he wants to know the truth behind Talk. And he is also surprised that he also detects, I guess, much in the same way that Talk kind of detects it in him, he detects that there's something more with Talk. And he's surprised that Talk can see through his little veil of whatever you want to call it. He can see through it. And I wonder, it sounds like Talk in the first book, we remember that part where Crone was kind of changing her appearance to be like a dog. I don't think that would maybe work in front of Talk. It sounds like he has this Mad Eye Moody kind of eye situation going on, which I think is so awesome. He is offered boiled meat, which he thinks about, and he I think at first is revolted by, but with his wolf smell, he knows that it is venison, but he takes part in it. He eats it anyway. So I think he's trying to play the part. And when it's brought up that he can see with this Mad Eye Moody sort of eye, he says, well, I see what I see, but I am Teniscowry now. You don't have anything to worry about me. And it's amazing because then Talk has this thing where he blinks out again. Not really blinking out in the way that Captain Perrin does, I don't think, but maybe he sees through the eye of the wolf again. And they are just blasting and chewing and slashing their way up north towards where Talk is. He sees Lady Envy and Tool speaking during this. And I think this is important here, as far as I can tell, because there's this jagged sorcery that is blasting them. We haven't really seen that, I don't think, so far. And as they are getting closer, it's just blasting towards them because the seer tells Talk that he is going to bring back his forces and deal with them on his own. And he's blasting them with this jagged sorcery. And it makes this mention of memories resurrected. And it is very difficult, suddenly, for Lady Envy and them to push through. I don't know if difficult is even the right word. It sounds like they still are, but they don't like what they are seeing. It's insanely intense sorcery. She frowns. She looks north and discusses with Tool the unprecedented alliance of the Kachane Chamal and the Jagged working together. Which it sounds like I thought the Kachane Chamal were before the Jagged, and then when the Kachane guys were all gone, however that happened, unless they're just, because we still have these demon undead ones, but it sounds like they're all gone, and then the Jagged built over top of them. I don't know if the Jagged just wiped them out or what, but I'm sure I will find that out either soon, because it sounds like everything's leading to that kind of stuff to figure out, or maybe I just missed it in the next two books, or in the last two books, but I'm excited to see that. So Talk kind of blinks back, and he's realizing that the Jagged is drawing more than just their regular warren Ontos Falak, this warren of ice. He's drawing upon something much older and probably much more destructive. I love how just stretched out the timeline is on this in this story. It is just stretched further than you could even think. I wonder how much further potentially we might be stretching out. But I love that when you think you've gotten to the bottom of something, there's always a little bit further to dig. Now, unfortunately, Talk is found out. The seer saw, which I guess that's a good name for him. But he saw. And when Talk looks back at him, he doesn't see what he saw before, but he sees this child. No more this withered old man. And he's this childlike kid. Childlike kid, great way of putting that. But he's calling Talk a liar. And is there anything more frightening than a child with unparalleled power to cause suffering? And he just goes nuts. I remember this Twilight Zone. I can't remember what the episode is. It was a long time ago. It was the one where there's this kid with this power that with his mind, if you make him upset, he can just send you out to this cornfield forever, I think. And I think it's almost like this purgatory that he can just do with his mind. So everyone is just walking on eggshells around this kid. And I get the same vibes here, even though I don't think this person is a kid. I think there's a lot of stuff going on, but I don't totally understand. It sounds like this is maybe a Jagged kid, but I don't know. I don't know if it's implied that it's one of these two kids that were dumped into the Warren. I don't get that vibe, but let's keep going. I just kind of think out loud. So Talk is lifted up in this reptilian embrace thing. All of a sudden, there's this reptilian giant thing just that grabs him and is just crushing him, which is so dark. Crushes him. His bones are grinding. It is horrifying. And the most horrifying thing of all of it is he is healed immediately so that he can be crushed again and again in this horrible loop. He's the Warren of healing. I think it's Denul. I don't know if if this seer kid is drawing upon that to do that, but he is just in this cycle of breaking and mending and breaking. And because it's a reptilian arm, I can't help but wonder. And I've wondered this about these Chamal. I keep calling them just the Chamal hunters because I'm maybe a little bit too lazy to remember exactly the name, but you know the ones I mean. The dinos with the sword arms. I am willing to put I'm willing to put my firstborn on the fact that that is probably not, well, maybe not my firstborn. Let's not put that on the internet. Maybe I'm willing to bet, well, I'm willing to bet a lot that those swords are either not their original things, that they used to have arms, or, yeah, just exactly that. There's something about it. I bet that those reptilian arms are these Chamal dudes, or like a cousin of it, or some pre sword arm prosthetic dude. Okay? That's what I think. And he's crushed over and over and over. He's not going to only have his body broken, but his mind and his will is under attack. And at this point, I could really use Tool showing up and saving the day. I really feel awful for Talk. But what a powerful chapter. What a powerful chapter. Now we finish this half of the book with chapter 13. And I think I'm just going to go into it right now. I don't think I need to go through all of it, but there are some powerful things that happen here too. The Maiba is losing hope. And obviously she's been losing hope this whole time. And she keeps seeing Silver Fox growing. As she dreams, she contemplates the abyss and emptiness, and she is starting to lose her faith in whatever might catch her in the afterlife. And that's when Whiskey Jack shows up with some words. A lot of people have tried to show up and try to comfort her. And this one singular part makes me like Whiskey Jack so much more. And think that even though he's maybe not as quick as Quick Ben, meaning like with intelligence and things, even though I don't think Whiskey Jack is a slouch, I think Whiskey Jack certainly seems to have some wisdom behind him. Everyone's tried to help her, and it sounds like he gets through to her, I think. She tells him about these dreams that are basically her on the edge of a precipice, about to die, and other things. And he says that they are probably more, at least they can be, projections of what she's already fearing. And I'm no dream expert, but I've always kind of wondered that too. How much of that is just our own projections and how much is random and stuff. But he's trying to give her hope again. Telling, don't lose faith. Don't lose faith. Your Rivy spirits are probably still there to catch you. He's trying to offer hope, which I find is so great. I love Corlat, this Tistandi, trying to offer her hope. We've had Kruppa trying to offer her hope. And this great Raven. It sounds like the Rivy people are the ones who are most spiritually inclined with things and have this greatest kind of understanding in that way. But man, I just love it. I just love this. And she's kind of ticked off by this. She's ticked off as if he's just putting words in her mind. And she says this, quote, "Begone, Whiskey Jack, with your sword thrust words, the cold, impervious armor of your ignorance. You cannot answer all that I have seen with a simple, brutal statement. I am not a stone for your rough hands. The knots within me defy your chisel. Your sword thrust words shall not cut to my heart. I dare not accept your wisdom. I dare..." Whiskey Jack, You bastard. I think he got through to her. And I love that. So we go to Dujek and Krepa, who are in this long column of soldiers that they're all going towards Kapistan. It's slow moving. They're getting ravaged by bugs. There's hot sun. There's even people starting to rot a little bit. It's, I think the Rivi are kind of rubbing this mud or whatever onto the cattle so it doesn't get to them. Everyone's hungry. They're waiting for supplies to arrive. And in the back of the column, we have kind of really eaten the dust. We have Silver Fox in the very back. Not really a part of this larger group going on. And behind her, 2 Malazan soldiers. I believe 2 female Malazan soldiers, if I'm not forgetting. And they have volunteered for that spot in the back watching Tattersail's back. And they volunteered for it. And they did that because they can see Tattersail within Silver Fox. And they're loyal to her because they also know that Tattersail seems loyal to them. Now, knowing what I have recently started to realize again and about what's going on with her and Night Chill, I did not realize that Night Chill was connected to the Elder Goddess. That was over my head. And I did not realize that we saw what happens. We saw her fate in Pale. The fate of the Elder Goddess in Pale. Remember, we were waiting for her to be ripped apart. And so I didn't realize that. So that's when Calor is looking into Silver Fox. He's seeing Night Chill there. And I like this Elder Goddess. I want her to come forward a little bit, if that's who she is. But it sounds like it's a little bit deeper than that. And anyway, she is now linked with Tattersail, which I find so interesting. And I wonder what kind of twist we're going to get with that. But I'm so excited. Anyway, these guys are all walking along on this caravan, in this caravan line, in this column, and behind them is this loud crack that occurs. And they look back, and a warren has opened up and is flooding out the plain with blood. And these caravans fly out, these ones that they have hired. There's a bunch of these horses and people just flying out. They're burning up. It's a nightmare. And then the warren seals up behind them, stopping the flow of blood. And this is, I assume, the elder god Krull's blood that is filling up the other warrens. How cool. How crazy of an imagery is that? It's this, it just opened up and then it's just flying out all this, just this flood. These dudes from the caravan have a severed talon arm with them. That is from a demon. And that talon arm, it sounds like that is what has been melting things. Remember when, I don't know if I even mentioned it in the recap in chapter 6, but the metal has been melted away. I wonder if this talon arm is an arm. You know, I talked about the Kachain Chamal, believing that they have arms. I don't know if it would be related to this. I don't know if it matters that much. But these demons that were in this warren with them, that they just flooded out of with all this blood that they just poured out of, they weren't attacking the caravans. They were fleeing. They were just in there trying to get out and catch a ride with the caravans, which, wow. Everything in these warrens has just gone awful. So I don't know. I just wonder about I wonder about a lot of things going on, but I wonder about these Kachane Chamal, if it's when they became undead, if somehow they got these weird sword prosthetics and things like that. But I'm going back to things and going on tangents. Now we get to Calor at the end of this chapter, or near the end of this chapter. And it is so good. So I'm going to read quite a bit of this next part. So please bear with me if you want. If you don't want to go through that, just jump out and I will see you on the next one. But I'm so excited about it. And I'm going to page 389. That's where we find the start of this crazy kind of monologue and this thing that happened. So on, 390 actually. So midway down, we get to him and he's just kind of contemplating what's going on. And he says this, or he's thinking this just to himself. No matter the stench of decades and centuries, no matter the interminable boredom of inactivity that was so much a part of living, there are moments when I must act explosively with certainty. Remember, he wants to get rid of Silver Fox, but there's more than that. And all that seemed nothing before was in truth preparation. There are creatures that hunt without moving. When they become perfectly still, perfectly motionless, they are at their most dangerous. I am that creature. I am such a creature. I have always been so. Yet all who knew me are gone, ash and dust. The children who now surround me with the gibbering worries are blind to the hunter in their midst. He's just buying his time. Pale hands gripping the arms of the throne, he sat unmoving, stalking the landscape of his own memories, dragging them forth like corpses pulled from the ground. And I guess, I'm going to keep going. 8 mighty wizards. Hands linked, he's remembering. Voices rising in unison, desperate for power, seeking it from a distant, unknown realm. Unsuspecting, curious, the strange god in that strange place edged closer. Then the trap was sprung. Down he came, torn to pieces, yet remaining alive. Brought down, shattering a continent, obliterating Warrens, himself broken, damaged, crippled. The 8 wizards who sought to oppose me, and so loosed a nightmare that rises once more millennia later. Fools. Now they are dust and ashes. 3 gods ascending my realm. Too many insults delivered by my hand. My existence had gone beyond irritation, and so they banded together to crush me once and for all. In their ignorance, they assumed I would play by their rules, either fight or yield my realm. Weren't they surprised, striding into my empire, only to find nothing left alive, nothing but charred bones and lifeless ash. They could not comprehend, nor did they ever, that I would yield nothing, rather than surrender all that I have fashioned. I destroyed it. That is the privilege of the Creator. Man. And one of you remains pursuing me once more. I know it is you, Kroll. But instead of me, you have found another enemy, and he's killing you, slowly, deliciously. You have returned to this realm only to die, as I said you would. And did you know? Your sister has succumbed to my ancient curse as well. So little left of her. Will she ever recover? Not if I can help it. A faint smile spread across his withered, pale face. And just as that's happening, a portal opens and takes shape before him. A figure emerges, a Jagged. And it turns out to be the same one who was working for Hood as his herald and got fired and got rehired. Good for him. I convey greetings from the crippled god, the Jagged says, to you, Calor, and your vast empire. You tempt me, Calor rasped, to add to your facial distress, Gethel. My empire may be gone, but I shall not yield this throne. You, of all people, should recognize that I am not yet done in my ambitions, and I am a patient man. And I don't want to keep reading all this here, even though, man, you should just go through it and finish off this chapter at 391. But it is wild. And what they talk about, he has a job offer for Calor. Calor doesn't kneel to anyone. But he still has a chance to be a king of this new kingdom. This house of chains. Where there's the herald, this Jagged, a new house that has come into the deck of dragons from the crippled god, and the crippled god has need of a king who can basically work independently. So he's going to poison things, and that's all he wants, but it's okay if he has. Calor kind of likes this proposition. Maybe not at first, but he likes it. And the crippled god is winning. They are destroying everything, destroying all these warrens. And he makes this distinction here that I think is great. We've thought that they are poisoning the warrens, but more than that, they are actually altering the warrens, which is even more kind of sinister. It's almost like these mutations of the warrens. And if he's going to take this job, he has some things that the crippled god would like for him to find out. One of them is the location of Moonspawn, so that he can, he's going to have to betray he's going to have to betray Kaladin Brood and all that. But Calor has something that he would like from the crippled god in exchange. An opportunity. An opportunity of a moment of vulnerability is all that he asks, specifically regarding Silver Fox. Just give him a chance to have her vulnerable, to be taken out. And at the end of this, he's the herald kind of goes into his warren and steps back and leaves, and Calor just sits motionless, a hunter on the edge of ambush, suitably explosive, suitably deadly. Wow. I think we all knew Calor was going to be back doing some awesome stuff. I mean, awesome's not the right word, but I'm pretty sure also that I missed Calor in the first book. With Kaladin Brood and his kind of group of stuff going on, I think he was probably mentioned, but There was just a lot. There was a lot. So that's why I'd like to go through the first 2 books again. And I have convinced one of my buddies who hasn't read these. He is going to read through them as well. So I think I'm going to maybe even have him on, and we can go through some of kind of go through a little bit in this sort of form, but ask him questions, what he thinks, and that. So it should be interesting. But let's finish this, and we'll get to the halfway point of this book. Now we get to Whiskey Jack and Corlat and this romance that's actually pretty sweet, and I'm surprised that Steven Erikson has really kind of some pretty good chops in all sorts of these different areas, including romance, which is surprising. Sounds like Whiskey Jack always kind of had this crush on Corlat, at least for a while, and she lives for a long time. He's just immortal, but she chooses Whiskey Jack to be a part of her life for at least that small moment that they will have together. I think that's beautiful. They speak about fighting that had happened between the bridge burners and the Tistandee before, and the mutual respect that grew between both sides. Though rivals at that time, most campaigns get nastier as they drag on, as they say here in the book, but this one got more civilized. And Corlat wants his companionship. But she also is, I love Corlat. She's vulnerable and maybe doesn't feel like she's got much to offer. She speaks of her heart as a scant gift, fearing he may be disappointed about what he finds there. Now we see the very last part of this chapter, and it's the Maiba again. And again, she's in one of these dreams. And she is holding on at the edge of a precipice that is threatening to take her. And remember, Whiskey Jack told her to not worry so much about her dreams. But all of her dreams just are wild. And she usually wakes up pretty pissed off when she looks down and she's old again. But in the dreams, she's young, but she's still running away. And she falls. But something catches her. This dragon catches her and lifts her up to lifts her up into safety. She doesn't feel terror any longer, but exhilaration. I sure hope things turn out for this lady. She sees herds below and recognizes it. Then she is gently lowered upon the grassy plain. She's been there before. It's beautiful. She is in her young body from her dreams again. She hears disembodied voices that I think clue us in that the undead dragon that took her away was a Talan Imas bonecaster and had come to the summons of maybe Silver Fox. That's how I get it, and hooked the Maiba up. It's a little bit confusing, and it's also a little bit of a confusing exchange at the end about Krupp not being alone in refusing to abandon the Maiba to her fate, which is so cool. And then she wakes up old and is angry all over again. And then that's the end of the second subbook, and we are at the halfway part. I found so much heart in this second subbook of this book. There was a lot of excitement, but now I'm starting to really it's really starting to get its hooks in me, in the sense that I don't want more bad things to happen to so many of these characters. I'm really emotionally invested now. Yeah, I'm just way into this. I hope this is exciting. and interesting to you. I cannot wait to see where it goes. It sounds like the whatchamacallit, the siege in Kapistan is just about to take place. I can't imagine that going very well, but we will see. And I will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. And please consider subscribing if you haven't. Share it with someone who might appreciate it, with someone maybe doing their first read-through of Memories of Ice, or share it with people who have read it, who might be interested in hearing these kinds of reactions and a long-form kind of talk about it. But I'm really loving it so far, and I'm really appreciating that you have listened. Leave me a comment if you'd like. I will respond, and leave a like if you can as well. It really does help. So I will see you on the next one. Thanks.